Recent events have taught me a valuable lesson. Clickbait does work. Now, historically, I've been an outward supporter of XPan alternatives, be it swing lens cameras or panoramic adapters, because panoramic is cool. It's an interesting format, opens up some creative ideas, but the price that these holy grail cameras command is not so cool. Well, curiosity is a bitch, and I've got my ways. And those ways got me to get this camera in my hands to put a few rolls through. Certainly not enough time to feel proficient with the system, but enough time to really get a feel for things and gather some thoughts on the camera. I won't waste your time with a history lesson. If you clicked on this video, you probably know what a Hasselblad XPan is, or its Japanese brother, the TX1. All you need to know is that back in the day, in the golden age of film, two of the biggest dogs in the park, Hasselblad and Fuji, struck up a bit of a partnership that resulted in one of the coolest cameras coming to market. The result being the now famous XPan or TX1, a rangefinder camera that shoots 35mm film with a bit of a twist. A 65 by 24 panoramic frame. And not one of those cut-off frames that you see on a point and shoot. True panoramic spanning across the negative. Double the frame width of a standard 35mm frame. It's something really special, and not many other cameras can do anything quite like it. The secret sauce behind the XPan is a lens with a wide image circle, more similar to a medium format lens, whereas other cameras like the Widelux or the Soviet Horizon cameras use a swing lens. I have a Horizon camera myself, and it's a ton of fun to shoot, but in reality, its limited control makes it more of a point and shoot than a full-fledged pro piece of equipment. The XPan, on the other hand, is a true professional camera made for professional use. So what the hell am I doing with one? Well, the panoramic format is kind of a landscape photographer's dream, and to be able to do so cleanly is a really compelling offer, especially considering the XPan has the ability to switch back to normal 3x2. The biggest downside of the system, aside from the obvious elephant in the room, is that the lenses are a little slow. f4 is usually where most of them top out, and that's because these lenses are, for all intents and purposes, medium format lenses. In fact, you can mount these lenses on the new Hasselblad X2D digital medium format bodies. But is that really an issue? There's only one way to find out. I first set out with a film that was a little unfamiliar to me. Candido 200 is a cinema stock, tungsten balanced, spooled up for still use, and I figured the panoramic aspect ratio would be a good test of this film's mettle. The results were pretty impressive. The colors are a little funky. I haven't worked with this film before, so still figuring it out, but the exposures were good. I did throw on an 85B filter for a few shots, but that was mostly living on my LX, which also had a roll of Candido in it, as I was testing out the difference between filters on the film. This first roll, I think, suffered a bit, given that composition was a little difficult. On my particular unit, I have the 45mm f4 lens, which seems to be the common or standard lens for the system. At the time, I thought this would be most comparable to what I'm usually used to shooting, that is 50mm prime lenses. However, I would soon find out that I was sorely mistaken, and my compositions would suffer. Not being one to get discouraged that easily, I went with a much more flexible Portra 800 for my next roll. If we're going to ball out on an XPan, we might as well ball out on film too. To be honest with you, I was feeling a little nervous having a camera like this on me. There was almost some pressure. I didn't really have particular subjects in mind or landscapes that I wanted to visit. It's not like I'm a hop skip away from the grand landscapes of Utah or the city skylines of New York, nor do I have the time to make either of those trips right now. I was still in Pennsylvania, and I had to make the best of what I had. And that required a bit of a change of mindset. Truth be told, I have been feeling a bit stuck in a rut. This area, while incredibly beautiful, isn't necessarily accommodating to a photographer. At least I think so. It's pretty challenging when cruising around the back roads, seeing beautiful sights, when there's no shoulder to pull over on. This is a pretty common problem that I face pretty often, especially when the site that I'm looking at tends to be someone's private property. And while I've gotten much more comfortable parking the car and throwing the hazards on, it's just not an option on busier streets or busier times of day. And at this point, I've unearthed just about every scenic viewpoint and photogenic place in the greater area to me. And I just keep revisiting them like in some sick and twisted cycle. So I've decided to approach things with a bit of a different mindset, as though I were a tourist, here for the first time. Yes, I have shot City Island dozens upon dozens of times before with just about every camera I own and a few that I don't own anymore. But today I was going to act as though it was my first time there and really try to take in everything that I could. And I think I did an alright job. I went to spots that I've gone plenty of times before, but instead looked for different compositions. For example, on these docks, I always look to the right and get the view of 3 Mile Island, and it's a cool shot. But this time around, I looked left, which seems really simple to do, but when you're in the mode of photography, you might lose sight of things like this. A while back I heard a piece of advice that when you're framing up a shot, take it and then turn around and see what it looks like behind you. And in this case, behind me was arguably an even better shot. Something I tried to do with this roll was fill the scene. With the first roll I felt that my compositions were fairly empty. In this one, especially around the docks here, there was so much going on visually that I felt it would be interesting to take advantage of a wider negative and fill that space as much as I could. We've got the bridge, we've got the skyline, the boats with all of their unique characteristics, and a little hint of nature on the side. I actually really like this composition, and while it's not award-winning by any means, it is one of the better ones in my opinion. I continued working through the roll, snapping as many shots of the skyline and the walking bridge as I could. But something felt off. This lens optically is fantastic, but a quick Google search revealed that what I thought would be reminiscent of my usual 50mm lens was actually closer to a 25 equivalent. I used to shoot wide angles, but truth be told, I haven't picked up anything wider than a 35 in over a year. Now with some newfound knowledge, I got back on the bike and, well, I didn't exactly remember how to ride it. I think that these compositions did improve a bit after my eventual realization. Having garnered a better understanding of what I was working with, I did go on to throw in some HP5. To be honest, I haven't had the chance to get the HP5 developed yet, so keep an eye out on the website for when I eventually do get those there. Despite having felt as though I hit my stride, my time with the XPan was up. But I had a lot of fun with it. In hindsight, do I think anyone needs to be walking around with a down payment in their camera bag? Absolutely fucking not. Is it arguably the coolest camera ever made? Yes, it is. It is so cool. This might have been due to circumstance, but walking around with this camera had to have been what Ferris Bueller felt like stealing that Ferrari and taking it for a spin. The camera was just beckoning me to go out and shoot, to use it more, to push it. It was truly a unique experience, and if you have the means, I highly recommend it. But all this whimsical passion and invigorating whatever crap that I've written down aside, practically speaking, that is, I can think of very few people, if any at all, that could actually use an XPan. Realistically, that is. I think anyone can use it. It's a very easy to use camera, but with a distinct purpose. If you're a landscape photographer, sure. But even then, I think the flexibility allowed by not even adapting 35 to a panoramic back, but just cropping a medium format negative, or even a 35 negative, will get you just as far. As a matter of fact, I've been cropping 120 and 35 for a few years now, since the old XPan hype a couple years back. And I love those results. Given that you can still get really high quality results by cropping, thanks to modern day scanning and other post-processing magic, the barrier to entry, that being cost on this system, becomes less and less worth it for me. I don't want to make the impression that I don't think this is a good camera. It does everything right. It feels perfect. Like, focusing with this camera feels like perfectly temperatured butter on perfectly golden toast. There's a certain precision in clicking the aperture ring. And not to mention, even the electronic components feel so dialed in. It's very clear how much effort and time and R&D and whatever the hell else went into making this camera truly premium. And it shows. It feels that way. I've seen and held and worked with a lot of different cameras, and this one is arguably the nicest. And of course, the important parts, the optics, are incredible. I mean, this is Hasselblad and Fuji at the top of their game, making truly unique lenses for a truly unique purpose so well. I know with some of the wider lenses, you'll need a center ND to compensate for vignetting, but that doesn't seem to be an issue on the 45 or the 90, which are the lenses that interest me the most. Anyways, that's all. Anyways, it doesn't matter if you have an XPan in your hand or an old point and shoot. What matters is if you can go out and make great photos. And yeah, that's easy to say when I have an XPan in my hand right now, but it'll be out of my hands soon enough. And all I'll be left with are the photos and the memory of shooting it. Who knows? It may make a return. May not. But till then, I'll see you next time.